Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're not, welcome back. Little bit of a different show today. So as you know, I do Tuesday tea break every Tuesday at 2:30, and this week I've got a guest with me who is Barry Dobey, the writer. Hi Barry.
Oh, hiya.
How are you? Are you good?
I'm very well, thank you. Yes, I've been for a walk here this morning with the dog and had a lovely day beside the sea, so it was very
Yeah,
nice.
it's quite a nice day, isn't it, today?
Yeah.
We've had some sunshine, which makes a change. But I'll just say some hellos in the side chat. First in was Daryl, Ania and Gloria, and Joy. Hi, Joy. And I think that's everyone so far. Hope you're all good and having a good day. Right, so should we get straight in and talk about what Barry writes? So, first question is, Barry, how did you get into writing?
Well, it's a bit of a long story, but I'll shorten it down a bit. I had a very serious injury a few years ago, and so it was a spinal injury. So I did need some things to sort of keep me safe and some time-intensive activity, something that would keep me out of trouble more or less and not get any worse injury. So I'd always wanted to write, so I'd give it a try. I had a story in mind, a story called Little Fugger, which is double G for anybody watching. And it really was a story about a terrible, terrible young woman who got put in charge of a Red Indian tribe. And I just ran away with it and went on and on. And I decided to write the first book, Leadership for Children, after finishing Little Fugger because I had a few more ideas, and that's where I got into it. And I mean, I didn't ever think that I could write, but once I got into it, yeah.
Brilliant. I forgot to say at the beginning as well. I know Barry because Barry used to be my boss. I forgot to say that. So, believe it or not, Barry, the first time we met was over 15 years ago. So,
Yeah, absolutely, yes,
yeah,
definitely.
and we worked together for 6 years. And he's the best boss I ever had. I always say that because he was. I'm not lying. That's true. Very fair and understanding, and always sort of listen to you, and always there to help, as well as being a good boss. So, sorry.
And it wrote a book about terrible leadership.
Yeah, he wasn't talking. You weren't talking about your leadership, though, were you?
Well,
So, tell us a little bit more about your first book, Leadership for Children, and as you said, you started writing one story, and it sort of developed from there, didn't it?
yeah, just seeing the snowball after Little Fugger got done, and I had a few more ideas, and what I wanted to do was I wanted to. I mean, I've got a major aversion to bullying. I hate bullies. I hate workplace bullies. All sorts of different forms of bullying. And I always speak up. If anybody puts something on Facebook or anything like that, I'll always put it in. And I've done like the government bullies and things like that. So yeah, I had a sort of a foundation there, which was my aversion to bullying. And I just wanted to sort of satirize and really lambast bullies, and I try to get like into their thought processes and what makes a bully tick, what makes a bad leader tick, what's going on in their mind. And so the stories, I wrote the stories as if I was telling the story to a child, a small child. So that's why it's written in the language it's written in. And yes, I put quite a few stories together, 9 stories, and it's all about the catastrophic consequences of terrible leadership.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've started reading it, and I've really enjoying it. And you know, it's sort of based on people we might know. That's all we're going to say.
I'm
No,
not saying it's based on anybody I know. I can tell you that.
let's just
But,
say,
I would say
reading it.
that everybody knows a Little Fugger.
Yeah,
Everybody knows a wood pigeon,
yeah,
all the characters that's in the book. And what I tried to do as well was I tried to make the characteristics of a bad leader or a good leader match up to an animal or a bitch or a person or something. It's more like fable, like the stories are more
yeah.
fable.
What I was going to say was, I think we all recognise character traits in the characters that you wrote, definitely, and I'm sure that
I try try to get the characters to think out loud, so that you
Yeah.
know what the motivations are behind their actions. And you know, and again, I'm trying to tell the story as if it's telling it to a child, which was quite difficult to do that. You're writing a children's story, but it's very dark,
Mhm.
satire, and some of the storylines are very dark. You know, even getting murder in one of the stories. So you know,
Yeah.
it's yeah.
Well, that
I was
leads
dead
on.
pleased with that one. Yes, I was dead pleased with Leadership for Children. It came out just the way I wanted it to come out. You know.
Good, good. Well, that leads us on to your second book, which is completely different. So, what made you, think of the idea? Have you always had that story in your head, or tell us a bit about your second book?
American Cliche. Well, American Cliche. You know, every time you watch an American film or a detective film, you'll see the cliches happen. You know, you'll have the guy who's got a gifted child. You know, they'll see a face in a mirror behind them when they look in the mirror. You know, all the different cliches that happen in a film. And I just thought, you know, what if you put all these cliches in one book, in one
Mhm.
story that just runs all the time? But also, I wanted to have like a really good storyline as well. So you know, it isn't just a collection of cliches. And I did. I will admit that I sat watching detective films for hours and hours with a handbook on my knee,
Mhm.
taking notes and writing down all the cliches. So there's plenty of cliches in there. And the other thing is, my wife knows an author as well. She was talking to an author, which is much more experienced author than me, and she was when I was writing the book, she was this author was going out to do a speech on why you should avoid putting cliches in the book, and my wife
Mhm.
told her, she said, "Well, my husband's writing a book that's just a cliche from start to finish," and she said, "Oh, that would be interesting," you know. So I mean, I continued to write it, and I had a storyline going, and then I come across a character, which was really just to introduce another character into the book, a guy called Reginald Clinkard, and he was being bullied, and because there's always a bullying storyline in all my books, so it happens somewhere.
Yeah.
And Reginald sort of was just he was just an incident to introduce another character, but I just got captivated by this character, and he becomes a main figure in the American Cliche book. So you know, if anybody buys American Cliche or reads American Cliche, the thing to do is get the rage, and once you get the rage, you'll realize there's another story happening, and Red becomes something quite. He's probably the best character I've ever written by far.
Well, I was just going to say there, I've got links below to Amazon if you want to have a look and, have a look at, if you want to buy, if you want to have a look at the synopsis of all of Barry's books. I've put a link below so you can have a look. But I'm looking forward to reading that one because me and Darren love detective dramas and all those kinds of things. So I'm looking forward to reading that.
And that's the thing. I mean, just because American detective films are cliche ridden, it doesn't mean they're not good. So the
Mhm.
challenge was to actually have a good story going on as well. So you know, like the American cliche, you know, there's a guy he gets to rock bottom just like the American cop does. He hands in his badge and he does all the things, but he has to come back because there's a major drug thing going on. So he gets really pulled into this major crime thing, and he has to sort of to solve it. But at the same time, Reg is sort of coming about as well. So, and that Reg's story is going on completely unknown to the rest of the characters in the book.
Mhm.
So there's storylines running in there, you know. And I was really pleased at the end of that book. You know, when I read it, so I did a proofread, and I was over the moon with that book. Yeah, yeah.
And your third book, A Burning Grudge, what's that about? And where did you get the idea for that book?
Well, by the time I wrote a Burning Grudge, it was the Burning Grudge was just the pandemic, and I had the idea before the pandemic because the Burning Grudge does have a pandemic that leads to a zombie apocalypse. But I had this idea, and I knew I was by the time I finished the American Cliche, I knew that I wanted to write. I wanted to do more writing, and so I think it was around about October last year. It was before the pandemic hit. Um, I had this idea that I wouldn't mind writing a book that was based in my own hometown, Bedlington. And because, you know, you read a lot of books, you read a lot of like zombie films and you watch a lot of zombie films, you read a lot of stuff, and it's never like you didn't recognize the places or anything like that, you know. So I thought, no, I know Bedlington really well. I know every street, I know the woods, I know every corner of Bedlington. why not have a book that's based in Bedlingham, and I can take the characters around all the different places, and that's what started that off. And I had this idea about a zombie virus that makes people reanimate. Because I love the zombie thing, I love the walking dead, I love all these things, but they never really explain, like, in very much detail, what these things are. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to put the storyline in. It was quite an exciting storyline, but I also wanted to see what made the zombies tick. Well, why, what was happening to them, what sort of sensing and things like that, and what their instincts were. So I set about writing that, and that went really well, but it took quite a long time to sort of get to publishing. And I did quite a lot of proofreads, quite a lot of changes and things like that. And that became really popular because there's a couple of the local Bedlington sites on Facebook and on social media, and people started talking about it. And it's actually selling quite well. It's quite a popular book.
Well, I've got a few friends that like zombie stories, so I'll have to let them know. But we used to every time Walking Dead was on, we'd talk about it the next day at work, didn't we? Because we both like zombies.
Yeah, I remember.
I miss that.
Yeah. Oh, it was, and I still watch them. I still love the concept of the Walking Dead and things like that. It's fantastic. And I'm proud that I've actually been able to sit down and write. It is, like, so far it's the most word count of a book that I've got. So it's quite a lot of words in that one.
Can I just ask the chat if you've got any questions for Barry? Please put them in the side chat, because we'll take your questions soon.
Yeah.
But the exciting thing is you're writing a new book. Or have you finished it? You've got a new book, haven't you?
I actually finished. What day is it? Day?
Tuesday.
It's Tuesday, isn't it? I finished it on Sunday. Yes, I decided I really wanted to try and get it published by December. So I did a little bit of extra work on Sunday, and I started the proofreading and the editing, and it's a long, like, as you know yourself, you've done a lot of proofreading.
And what's the story with this one then?
This one, it's a guy who gets cursed by the gods. It's a book called The Curse of Edward R, which is an unusual name, but I explain that in the book. And it starts off in a seaport in Wales, very small town, in I think it's 1756 or 1766. And it's a young guy. It talks about how he came about, and then he gets to 16 years old, and he has to make quite a lengthy voyage. And I'll not say why, because it would spoil the storyline, but he does come face to face with an entity that he believes is the devil. But unfortunately, there's quite a nasty bishop that wants something that this entity has, some technology that the entity has, and he tries to use the young lad to get to this entity to murder it. And unfortunately, the young lad gets cursed, and that's what happens. It's how he gets transported through time, and he ends up in the France in the First World War in the trenches.
So a bit of sci-fi then, a little bit.
Oh, sci-fi, yeah. But it's taken about 7 months, nearly 8 months to write, because a lot of the stuff I had to sort of research. I had to research what it was like, what ships were like in the 1700s, what the merchant ships were like, where they could go, where they had access to, and things like that, and what people wore. And I was on Wikipedia a lot. Checking things out, but of course, people watching in Wales might say, "Oh, yeah, Wales wasn't like that in the 1700s," but I did my best, and I did try to make it a good story, and I'm quite pleased with it. I'm up to chapter 16 on the edit, so there's 26 chapters and 72,000 words in that book, so it's quite a big book. Yeah,
so do you have a writing schedule, or do you say, right, today I'm going to write, or is it just when ideas come to you? Or
no, I have a life schedule, really, because I did have a very serious injury. I was 3 vertebrae and broke away in was fine, and I had extensive surgery. I was in surgery 3 times, and I think my life schedule is centered around. I mean, I have to do therapy, which is mainly walking therapy, but I do other exercise as well. And once I've done my walking, I'm up to about 7.5 miles a day. Once I've done my walking, I need to keep comfortable. So one of the activities I can do when I'm sitting comfortable is to write. And like I say, writing is one of these things that I've always wanted to do, but never had the time. But now I have the time. So I might do a few paragraphs one day. I might do a chapter another day. You know, on Sunday I think I wrote the last 2 chapters on Sunday, but it took from 9 in the morning till about 7 at night.
Wow.
But I think I've got past the hard bit. The hard there's when you're writing a book, there's bits that just flow, and you can just sit and you look up and you've written 2 chapters, or you've written a chapter. There's other times when it takes 2-3 weeks to write a chapter, you know. So it's funny.
Yeah. I've got a question from my friend Louise, who says, which is more difficult, starting the book or finishing it?
Difficulty is having the idea. I think it's fine. Like it's finding an idea that you can actually run with, but starting the book, I tend to have the same sort of routine. Not with Leadership for Children, but with the others. I'll sometimes give a hint of what's to come at the very start, and then come back to that later in the book. I think that it really is difficult. But what I would say is, I think anybody can do it. You know, you just, you'd be very surprised. I never thought I could write a book, and it was only my ambition to write the story Little Fucker, and that sort of snowballed into a whole book. So what I would say is have a go. Anybody that wants to, hasn't that. The thing is, having the idea. If you have the idea, then go with it. Yeah.
I'd love to think that I could write a book, but I don't know if I could, because as probably a lot of people in the chat know, I'm not the most disciplined person, so it would probably take me like 10 years to write it.
I would say you can. I know you. I know you well. I would say once you sit down and just get that first bit done, you'll have another idea. Another idea will come. And like before, I was to each story in Leadership for Children. I mean, I would say each story in Leadership for Children took about 2 weeks to write. Little Fugger I taught you a few days ago, and I told you Little Fugger took about 3 months to write, and that was just one story. But by the time I got to the end of each of the stories in Leadership for Children, I knew I had an idea for another one. I knew a story, and I had a great, And the other thing is, when you're away from it, you're thinking that you're thinking about why did I say that? What about this character? What about that character? And you're backtracking on yourself to sort of check the facts and make sure that you haven't got any sort of inaccuracies in the book, that somebody will come along and say, but he died three pages ago or whatever, you just keep you're always thinking about it, so to speak.
Louise says that she's thinking about writing a book of her meditation scripts to help other teachers. I think that would be really good, because Louise is a yoga teacher, but she also does meditation and relaxation, which I do every Monday with her on Zoom. But she writes all the meditation practices. That would be really good, Louise, if you'd done that. And Daryl says that she's put down notes for her book. So, I know a lot of people do, write. I think my dad did it once. But for remembrance, is it? I can't think of the name of the website. It was free for the weekend, and you could look at, looking up your family history. I can't think of the name of the website. Do you know the one I mean?
Yes.
Is it Ancestry or something? It was free for the weekend, so I went on there just to see if I could find anything about my grandparents. But I think all of my granddad's military records are sealed, so I don't know how long it'll be before I can read any of them, because I know that he was involved in something quite top secret, to do with oil. the oil fields, and he had security people with him because he was an engineer and he was the only one who knew how to do this job. So he had like personal protection and all that. I couldn't find any records about him at all. So I think they're not available for the public yet. So I think that would be an interesting story in the future. Yeah. Yeah, it was really surprising how little I could find out about my grandparents, really. You'd think everyone would leave like quite a large paper trail. I did find one of my granddad's old childhood addresses in London, and then I looked it up on Google Maps, and that was really cool. Seeing where he lived in London, that was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found it quite hard to write about the war. That was and so the answer to the question with me recent book about what was the hardest bit to write was the beginning of the end. It was the end of this book because I got into the trenches and I found it really, there was it's one thing you don't want to get wrong when you're writing about that sort of horror that people have gone through. So I did check my facts quite a lot for that part of the book. So I've been writing this part of the book for about 2-3 months now. Just and a lot of it's been, doing surface and finding out what happened in the place that I'm actually describing, and just to make sure that I can actually write that storyline in that place, otherwise you offend people, which it's the last thing you want to do when you're writing a book is offend people, unless of course they're bad bosses and you don't mind.
What was I going to say? If anyone's got any more questions, please put them in the chat. I'm surprised nobody said how was Karin as an employee, because I think I've got a bit of a reputation for like not wanting to be told what to do.
You were great. Right. Fishing for a compliment, yeah. Fishing for a compliment. Yes, you were great. I'm not going to say that anymore. Well done.
I have told everyone about the fact that when I started, I was like, right, the office needs organising, and I just took it upon myself to just totally reorganize the whole reception office. And Barry wouldn't let me do his desk. I remember a few times I used to say, Barry, please can I tidy your desk? And you were always like, no, I like it how it is.
I'm sitting pointing, looking at my desk now, and I'm thinking, God, if you saw this, I wouldn't care. My wife was in here the other day doing exactly the same. She tidied my desk up and it's back. Everything's back where I can find it.
It used to drive me crazy. I used to say to you all the time, how can you find anything?
Yeah.
Oh, I've got a question from Daryl. What does it say? How difficult it is to go from completing your book to having it printed, published?
Well, I didn't use a publisher for my books. I've just self-published on Amazon, and I did find it really difficult publishing the book on Amazon. But I was lucky enough to have somebody that knew how to do that. My brother-in-law writes, and he published a couple of things on Amazon. So he came across when I completed Leadership for Children, and he sat with me. Once you've done it once, it's you can do it. And I mean, I didn't write books to make money neither. That's the reason I wrote books was to do something constructive with my time. So I put my book self-published on Amazon. So I'm not advertising all over the place, and I'm not in Waterstones or anything like that. It's basically if somebody looks for my page on Amazon, they'll see my books and they'll have a place where they can buy them or not. But it was quite difficult the first time. But I'm not sort of apprehensive about this next book, and I think I'll manage that all right. Yeah.
That's the thing. You're enjoying yourself. It's it's a release. It's like a artistic sort of release, isn't it? And it's
I
doing it for yourself.
I feel very sort of it's been worthwhile when I get to the end of a novel, and I read it through, and I quite often look at it and think, "Crikey, was that me? That's just done that," it's really nice to get to the end of a book and realize the sort of what you've achieved. And then one of the best things you get is feedback. And I'm always telling people who buy me books, if anybody buys a book, please put a comment on Amazon and be honest. So I've had nice comments on Amazon. I've had quite a lot of comments on the local social media as well. and that's all positive as well. So I'm doing something right, you know.
Mhm.
And this is a guy who didn't think he could do it. So anybody out there that wants to write a book, get started. The hardest bit is just getting sitting down that first time and believing that you can actually do it. But I believe that most people can write a book.
Mhm. I would imagine with the lockdowns and everything we've had, there's probably been quite a lot of people that have written books.
So yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or a lot of people like me who just ate a lot.
Or drank a lot of wine. Yeah.
I've been all right with the drink. There was a little hiccup on my birthday. I had a Zoom party and there was a little hiccup there. I had a 2-day hangover. Yeah, I've been enjoying cooking and baking and made some bread.
Well, Janice has been baking. My wife's been baking, and I've got to say, this is another cliche for the next book, but we've had quite a lot of banana bread.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
I think
lockdown.
I only made one.
Yeah.
So
She puts chocolate chips in hers. So
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. That's the secret. Yeah.
I did used to like baking and bringing it into work actually.
Yeah, we used to bring some lovely stuff in as well, remember?
Yeah. And I every year I used to like making my shortbread. I did do that a couple of years ago. I haven't done it for a couple of years. I really should. Quite a lot of my friends on YouTube, I sent them all little Christmas presents of shortbread. So, any more questions? Anyone in the chat? So, you were saying about your walking. I can't believe that you're walking 7 miles. I can probably walk about 700 meters, if that. I have trouble
Yeah.
just walking the dog around the block.
About 2 years ago, I could only walk at the end of the drive because of the injury I had.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a blessing that I've been able to sort of build myself up. It was a slow process. It took quite a long time to be able to walk up to the top of the street and back and whatever. But I just did a little bit more every time I went, and eventually I've got it up to this now. I got back to playing golf, so that's another
Brilliant.
interest I've been able to resume. Not as obviously not as proficient as I used to be at golf, but I swing the club and hit the ball. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm a lot stronger now, so a lot better.
Are you still doing your kayaking?
It's just I really want to get back on the kayak, but it's just the getting it from the garage to the car. I've got to carry it. I've got to put it on the roof rack in the car, and I'm still not ready for that. So
Yeah. But you're quite lucky where you live. You live in Northumberland, don't you? So you've probably got quite a lot of nice countryside and that around you, haven't you?
Yeah, I go to the river once back with a kayak, and I mean
Yeah.
I'm saying that's 3 years since I went kayaking, but I do go to the river once back, and there's a 2 mile stretch there. It's beautiful, so you don't have to go anywhere else. There's a few lakes, Queen Elizabeth Lake, the Fulham Lake, and there's a few lakes up there, Druid Bay, as well. So there's quite a few places I could go, but I'm just not ready for that one yet. But I will. I will get back.
I'm sure you will.
And like I say, once I've done the exercise, the exercise is always in the morning. I've got time to fill in the afternoon, so the writing's a really good time for time flies.
Right. I think we'll probably end it there because I don't think there's any more questions. I was hoping. Oh, is there another question? Hang on. Just as I said that, this question come up. Have you always had the desire to write from a young age?
Yes. I always wanted to write, but I never had the time. So when I had my injury, I was sort of timed out by the ill health process. So once I got to the end of any paid leave, I was basically in limbo, and I was unpaid, and I decided just to take retirement there and then. So once I was retired, I think just suddenly had the time on my hands, and I didn't go straight to writing. I had this idea of the story of Little Fugger and the Red Indian tribe and things like that, but it was always on the back burner for the first year or so. And I did quite a lot of artwork. I collected glass from seeing, and I was doing quite a lot of glass art.
Oh yeah.
And I filled a lot of time in because that's a very safe activity as well. But I seem to get drawn to this story, and I just sat down one day, put word on, and just rattled away. And eventually, after 2 or 3 months, I got this story, and I thought, I can do this. Yeah, I can do this.
And you obviously you like to collect stuff, don't you? Because you're in your man cave right now, and I know you've got every single bit of the wall covered.
Yeah, the CDs I pick up at the car book sales. So
Yeah.
I haven't picked up the CD very much, but I've got about 2,000 CDs. I was like relieving people of the CDs I didn't want anymore. So I've got everything A to Z. I love my CDs. Yeah, I've got all sorts. Yeah.
Haven't you got a little something to do with Walking Dead? I'm sure I remember seeing something you bought.
Yeah, I've got Lucille is on the wall there.
That's right.
Yeah. I made a Lucille. Yeah. Michonne, Rick, Negan, they're all behind me. I'm not going to pick the camera up because I may not be able to get it back up. I'm very good with technology, you know.
So you're in your man cave, and I'm in my sewing / reselling cave.
Yeah.
Although is it still sunny where you are? It's really bright.
It is, yes. I've closed the blinds. I've had the blinds closed, but there's one open here. There seems to be a lot of light coming in there, so maybe should have shut them all at the start.
I can see we've got like a dark blue sky. There is a little bit of sun, but obviously I only get the sun in here in the morning, so it looks really dark. Would you say we're about 30 miles away from each other, or?
No, where are you again?
I'm still in Long Benton.
Long Benton? No, it's about 11, 12 miles.
Oh, is it? Oh, so not as far as I thought. Because we both worked in Forest Hall, which is like sort of the second to next town from Long Benton. It's all lots of small towns basically, and then as you go into Northumberland, there's lots of small towns as well, isn't there? So it's different with it. A lot of people live in sort of cities where it's all spread out, whereas here you've got small little towns all close to each other. So but obviously Barry lives in a much nicer part of the country than I do.
A lot of like woodland and a nice park down the woodland area. So yeah. All features in the book, Burn and Grudge.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for joining me, Barry. That was really good. And I hope people go and have a look on Amazon or have a look on the Facebook page and check out your books because they're really excellent. And thanks very much for joining me today. And hope everyone in the chat enjoyed that. And we'll see you